The flight home took 14 hours and 20 minutes. Tiana knew this because she counted. Not in the anxious survival mode way she had counted the 11 minutes alone in the interrogation room, but in the particular deliberate way of someone who needed the hours to mean something. To represent actual, measurable distance between the woman who had stood in a corporate corridor in Seoul with handcuffs catching the overhead light and the woman who was, at this moment, 37,000 feet above the Pacific going home. She slept for 4 of the 14 hours. She looked out the window for 3 more. She thought about her brother for the rest. Not the tuition figure, not the accident, not the logistics. Just her brother. The way he called her when he was stressed and talked too fast. The way he had cried exactly once in front of her, the night before she left for Seoul, and then pulled himself together and told her to go and not look back. The way he was made of the same material she was and had always been and would always be. She thought about the elevator. She thought about the lip gloss. She thought about a Monday morning in Gangnam that had started like every other Monday morning she had ever had and had not ended that way at all. She thought about yes, the particular weight of it, the way it kept being the right answer even when everything around it was complicated. The plane descended through the cloud cover, and the city appeared below, familiar and enormous and exactly as she had left it, indifferent to how much had changed in the person coming back to it. She was home. The arrivals hall smelled the way it always had. She could not have named the smell if anyone had asked, a specific combination of the coffee franchise near the exit and the cleaning product on the floors and the recycled air that belonged to this building in this city and no other. Home had a smell. She had forgotten that Seoul never had this particular one. Her mother was waiting at the barrier in the green coat. The green coat had been hanging on the same hook by the front door since Tiana was 7 years old. It had been through 2 relined seasons and a replaced zipper and was still, irrevocably and permanently, the coat. The one her mother wore when something mattered, when she was going somewhere that required the version of herself that was completely serious and completely present. She was wearing it now, and she was standing with the posture of someone who had been waiting longer than the flight time, who had been waiting since a phone call in the middle of her own workday, or since a daughter boarded a plane for another country, or since a long time before either of those things. Tiana walked through the barrier. Her mother put both arms around her and did not say anything for a moment, and Tiana did not say anything either. The arrivals hall moved around them, other passengers, other reunions, the ordinary traffic of people coming back to their people. None of it required their attention. Her mother pulled back. She looked at her daughter's face with the specific, thorough attention of a woman taking inventory of someone she loves. "You look different," she said. "Good different or bad different?" Tiana asked. Her mother considered it. "Strong different," she said. They went to the hospital first. Welcome to Afro-Korean Drama. This is an original story written and produced for this channel, and this is part 5, the last chapter, the one we have been building toward since a woman fixed her lip gloss in a mirrored elevator and a stranger stepped in and everything changed. Now, before we go any further, I need to stop for a moment and speak directly to you. If you are watching this right now, it means you have been here. Not just for this episode, for all of it. From the elevator, from the lip gloss, from the first nervous morning greeting, from the restaurant and the Seo Yuna bombshell, and the 48 hours and the church and the boardroom and the corridor and the handcuffs and everything in between. You have been here for Tiana from the very beginning, and I see every single one of you. Every "Stay Strong Tiana" in the comments section, every theory about who orchestrated the frame-up, every person who said they loved the church scene or the backyard confrontation or the moment Dae-sung threw the document on his mother's table. Every viewer who watched part 1 and immediately went to the comments to demand part 2 and part 3 and part 4, and now this. You are the reason this story exists across 5 parts. Your investment, your loyalty, your emotional presence in this story made it possible to take it this far and tell it this fully. I wrote every episode knowing you were there, and I am grateful for that in ways I cannot fully put into words. This finale is yours as much as it is Tiana and Dae-sung's. Do well to subscribe to the channel to support me and keep this community growing. If you are just finding us now and go back to part 1, You need every piece of what came before for this ending to land the way it deserves to. For those of you who have been here from the beginning, drop in the comments right now and tell me where in the world you are watching from. And tell me the moment in this series that got you completely. I want to know. Now, let's finish this story the way it deserves to be finished. Her brother was on the 3rd floor. The room had been upgraded before Tiana landed. She had made one phone call between the elevator in Gangnam and the airport departure gate, and it had taken care of itself without requiring explanation. He was sitting up when they arrived, his left arm in a cast from wrist to elbow, his expression a practiced combination of genuine relief and elaborate casualness that she recognized as the specific face he deployed when he did not want her to see how much something had affected him. She had been reading this face since he was 4 years old. He had never successfully deployed it on her. "You came home," he said, like it was mildly interesting. "Obviously," she said. She sat on the edge of his bed and looked at the cast and looked at his face. The same face she had been looking into since he was born, the eyes made of the same material as hers, and he looked back at her. "The arm," she said. "Broken in 2 places," he said. "Hurts less than it did." "The scholarship." "Replacement funding came through last week. I was going to call you, but—" He gestured at the arm with the particular eloquence of someone gesturing at the obvious. "Circumstances." She looked at him for a long moment. He held her gaze. All the things that the two of them never said out loud, the particular shorthand of siblings who had grown up in the same understanding of what mattered and what it cost, passed between them in the silence. "I'm glad you're all right," she said. "I know," he said. Then, for just 1 second, without the elaborately casual face, "I'm glad you came home, Tiana." She squeezed his hand once. The specific pressure their grandmother had always used, the one that meant everything without needing to name it. She stayed for 2 hours. She fixed his pillows. She ate the terrible hospital cafeteria sandwich and complained about it in the particular register that required no adjustment for how long she had been gone. When she stood to leave, she looked at him one final time in his hospital bed and thought about a night before she left for Seoul, a boy crying once and then straightening up and telling her to go. She didn't look back when she left. She had learned that from him. The next morning, she was in the kitchen making tea when she heard the taxi. She had told him come. The night before, after the hospital and dinner and the particular quiet that fell over her childhood home when the day ended, she had read his message 3 times and then written back 1 word. Come. She had not examined what that word meant for longer than it took to send it because she had learned, across 5 episodes, that some answers did not improve with more analysis. She heard the front door. Her mother opened it. Tiana was at the kitchen counter, but she could see the hallway from where she stood, and she watched her mother look at this man on the doorstep. A Korean man in his early 30s in a regular jacket and no tie, holding nothing, the particular quality about him that was always present regardless of what he was wearing, the composed, unhurried certainty of someone who had never in his life needed to rush for anything. Except that this morning he had rushed for a lot, an overnight flight, a different continent, a doorstep in America because a woman he loved had said come. He bowed slightly, not a full formal bow, the particular respectful inclination of someone who understood that he was in a space with its own customs and was going to honor them without making a production of doing so. Tiana's mother looked at him for a long moment. She was not a woman who could be hurried through an assessment. Then she stepped back, opened the door wider. "Come in," she said. "I made food." Tiana, from the kitchen, recognized the specific weight of those 3 words. Her mother made tea for people she was evaluating. Food meant the evaluation was complete, and the result was favorable. She had apparently evaluated Jin Dae-sung between seeing him on the doorstep and deciding to open the door fully, and the food was already on the stove. He came in. He took his shoes off at the threshold without being asked. Tiana saw this from the hallway and noted it the way she noted everything, understanding that her mother had also noted it and had filed it alongside the bow and the jacket and the particular way he had stood on the doorstep without performing anything. He sat where her mother directed him at the kitchen table. He accepted the food with both hands. He ate with the genuine, focused appreciation of someone who had not had a home-cooked meal in a long time and was not pretending otherwise. Her mother asked him questions, not tests, the systematic, gentle interrogation of a woman who had built everything for her daughter and was now meeting the man her daughter had chosen, and who intended to understand him the way she understood everything, completely, precisely, and with the full attention she gave to things that mattered. Where was he from? What was his childhood like? What did he understand about what Tiana had been through? He answered everything. Not with the boardroom precision of Daesong Holdings, with the honesty of someone who had left the institutional armor at the door with his shoes and was sitting in a kitchen in America being the person underneath the CEO. He spoke about his mother and the expectations and the 30 years of architecture that had surrounded his life since before he was old enough to understand it. He spoke about the elevator, about what it had meant to have someone talk to him like a normal human being in a space where he had long since stopped expecting that. He spoke about the transfer request and the boardroom and the house in Songbuk-dong. He did not soften any of it. He did not edit the parts that reflected badly on the people around him or on the situation he had brought Tiana into. When her mother asked what his intentions were, he said, "I have something I have been carrying in my jacket pocket since a Friday in Seoul. I would like to use it before I leave this house, but I wanted to meet you first." Tiana's mother looked at him. Then she looked at Tiana. Then she picked up her teacup and drank from it and said nothing, which was how Tiana had always known, from 26 years of reading this woman, that the unasked question had received its answer, and the answer was yes. He visited the hospital that afternoon with Tiana beside him. Her brother assessed Daesung from the hospital bed with the focused attention of a younger sibling who had always taken the protection of his older sister seriously, regardless of the practical reality that she was the one protecting him. He asked 2 questions. The first was about Seoul, how it had happened, the sequence of it, what Daesung had done when things went wrong. Daesung answered with the same complete honesty he had given her mother that morning, not editing the parts that reflected the complications and the cost. The second question was whether he understood what Tiana had given up and what she had chosen and what both of those things had cost her. Daesung looked at him steadily. "Yes," he said, "I understand both." Her brother held his gaze for a long moment, the particular assessment of someone deciding whether a thing is true. Then he nodded once, a single nod that Tiana recognized from across the room as the same nod that Daesung had exchanged with his own mother across a mahogany boardroom table. The acknowledgement of 2 people who have understood each other through the only available currency, honesty. "All right," her brother said, and went back to complaining about the hospital food, which was his highest available form of acceptance. The news came on the 3rd day. Tiana was in the backyard, the same yard she had done homework in on summer evenings, the same tree in the corner that had been there longer than she had, when Attorney Kwan called. She had stepped outside while her mother and Daesung were having a conversation that she had deliberately given them space for. She picked up on the 2nd ring. Attorney Kwan was brief. The external investigation findings had been submitted to prosecutors. Criminal charges had been filed: corporate fraud, unauthorized access to a secured system, conspiracy to fabricate evidence against an employee. The trial had moved quickly, as trials moved when the evidence was complete and uncontested, and the defendant's legal counsel had advised against contesting it. The conviction had been entered that morning. Sentencing was forthcoming. Chairman Seo would go to jail. She stood in the backyard with the afternoon light on her face and the phone in her hand, and looked at the tree in the corner and thought about a corridor in Seoul, about handcuffs catching the overhead light, about a fluorescent room and a document on a table and a pen beside it, and the particular quality of a person who had decided something in a church pew and could not be moved from it by anything a lawyer brought into the room. It was over, completely, institutionally, legally and permanently, and without any remaining shadow. She put her phone in her pocket. She went back inside. She did not make an announcement. She sat at the kitchen table and accepted the tea her mother handed her and let the morning proceed. Daesung looked at her once, a brief reading look, the specific attention he had always given her, and she gave him the smallest nod. He understood. He reached across the table and covered her hand with his once, briefly. Then he picked up his tea. Her brother, when she told him that evening at the hospital, said, "Good." One word, flat and complete, the only response it required. So-yeon sent a message the same day, 4 words characteristically minimal, arriving with the timing of someone who had been following the external investigation through her own professional channels and had known the result before Attorney Kwon called. The message said, "Justice, as it should be." Nothing else. No punctuation at the end, just the fact stated, which was So-yeon entirely and completely, and Tiana read it twice and felt the full weight of everything that 4-word message contained. She wrote back, "Thank you, for all of it." So-yeon replied with a single period, which, from So-yeon, was the equivalent of a long and emotional paragraph. Dae-sung's mother arrived on the 4th day. Dae-sung had told her the night before, carefully with the space around it that he knew it required. He had said, "She asked if she could come. I told her it was your decision." Tiana had sat with that for a long moment in the evening quiet of her childhood bedroom, the same room where she had kept the rejection emails in a folder labeled "Things She Needed to Remember So She Would Not Stop," the same window she had looked out of when she was deciding whether to apply for jobs in Seoul. Then she had said, "She can come." The taxi arrived in the early afternoon of the 4th day. Tiana watched from the living room window. Dae-sung's mother stepped out, elegant even here, even in an American suburb on a quiet residential street, even in a place where none of her institutional authority transferred, where the 30 years of alliance structure she had built meant absolutely nothing, and she was simply a woman who had crossed an ocean to stand at a door. She was carrying something, a small wrapped package, carefully chosen, the kind of thing you brought to someone's home when you understood that arriving empty-handed communicated something you could not afford to communicate. Tiana's mother opened the door before she knocked. The 2 women looked at each other across the threshold. A Black American woman in her mid-50s in the green coat and a Korean woman in her late 50s in an elegant travel blazer. 2 mothers who had built everything for their children. 2 women who had arrived at the same doorway from completely different starting points and had, in the process of getting here, each had to reckon with something significant about the distance between what they had planned for their children and what their children had actually needed. Something passed between them in the first 3 seconds that did not require translation. The specific recognition of 2 women who understood, without discussing it, exactly what it had cost each of them to get to this doorway. Tiana's mother stepped back. "Come in," she said. "I made food." It was the same welcome she had given Dae-sung 4 days earlier. Tiana, watching from the living room, understood this immediately. Her mother had decided something before the door opened, had perhaps decided it before the taxi pulled up. The food was already on the stove. The afternoon that followed had the particular quality of things proceeding at a human pace that had not been forced. The small wrapped package was opened, something Korean, carefully and specifically chosen, and it made Tiana's mother genuinely pleased in the particular way she was pleased by things that demonstrated attention rather than expense. The 2 mothers found each other at the kitchen table and stayed there, in the way of women who have discovered that they have more to talk about than they expected, the conversation moving through the particular territory that belonged to both of them. What it meant to raise children alone, what it meant to work for something until working was all you knew, what it meant to watch a child become someone whose choices you could not always follow, and to love them through the choices anyway. Dae-sung sat at the table and was quieter than usual, the quiet of someone watching something happen that they had hoped for and had not been entirely certain was possible. Tiana sat beside him. She watched her mother make Dae-sung's mother laugh, actually laugh, the real kind, not the performed kind, at something about the green coat and its history, and she heard the laugh, and it was the right laugh, the one that meant the room had accepted someone. She thought about a restaurant in Gangnam, a name dropped at a candlelit table. All the distance between that moment and this kitchen. It was later, when Dae-sung had gone to bring her brother a care package from the house, and the 2 mothers were in the particular cooperative rhythm of preparing an evening meal together, an arrangement that had organized itself without anyone suggesting it, that Dae-sung's mother came to find Tiana at the back door. Tiana had stepped outside for a breath of air. The backyard in the late afternoon, the tree in the corner, the familiar, worn comfort of a space that had been lived in fully and without performance. She heard the back door open and turned. Daesung's mother came out. She stood beside Tiana and looked at the yard for a moment, the tree, the late light, the ordinary geography of a life that had nothing to do with boardrooms or alliances or 30-year understandings. "I want to say something to you," she said, "and I want you to hear it the way I mean it, not the way everything I have said to you before might make it harder to receive." Tiana was still. She waited. "In the boardroom," the mother said, "Attorney Kwan shared the document you built the night of the arrest. The timeline, the timestamps, the cover index and version history. The methodology you used to reconstruct events from memory in the middle of the night with no access to the company's systems." She paused. "I have been in rooms with some of the most capable people in Korean business for 30 years. I have watched people operate under pressure. I have watched what people do when the floor disappears beneath them." She looked at Tiana. "I have never seen anything like what you built that night." Tiana looked at her. "I sat across your table with a contract," she continued. "I calculated the offer with precision because I had researched exactly where you were most vulnerable. I knew about the tuition. I knew about December. I built the offer around what I believed you could not refuse." She said it without softening it, plainly. "I want you to know that I know what I did. I am not asking you to forgive it immediately. Forgiveness moves at its own pace, and I have no claim on yours. I am telling you that I see it clearly." The backyard was quiet. The tree moved in the afternoon breeze. "And I want you to know," she said, and her voice changed just slightly, the shift from the composed, deliberate delivery into something more personally costly underneath it. "That the woman who refused that contract, who went to a church the next morning, who walked back into that building and put the document on my son's desk without asking for anything, who said, 'Call my lawyer,' in a fluorescent room with nothing in her hand." She paused. "That woman is what I spent 30 years hoping he would find. I could not see it when it was in front of me, and then you showed me what you were made of, and I could not pretend I hadn't seen it." Tiana looked at her for a long moment, the afternoon light on both of them, the yard around them, unhurried. "He told me what you said in the boardroom," Tiana said, "what you brought to that table, the documentation you built independently." The mother said nothing. "You didn't have to do that," Tiana said. "The IT evidence was enough. You could have stayed in your seat and watched it resolve without you. It would have resolved." "Yes," the mother said, "but you didn't." "No," she said, "I didn't." They stood with that for a moment. "Thank you," Tiana said, simply, completely, the same economy of words she had always brought to things that were true. Something shifted in the mother's expression, the specific look of someone who has been offered something they did not expect and does not know immediately what to do with the grace of receiving it. She nodded once. Then she said very quietly, looking at the tree in the corner rather than at Tiana, "Take care of him. He has always been—" The pause of a mother finding the honest words for something she has never said out loud to anyone. "More alone than he let anyone see." "I know," Tiana said. "I know you know," the mother said. "That is the other thing I came to say." She turned and went back inside. Tiana stood in the yard for another minute, the afternoon light moving, the tree, the sound from the kitchen where two mothers were making food together, the gentle sounds of a domestic collaboration that had not been possible 6 months ago when she was power walking in heels toward an elevator in Gangnam. She thought about the church, the candle that burned without flickering, the particular settling of a mind that has finally found the number that does not move. She thought, truth really is the only firm ground, not because it is safe, but because everything built on it holds. She went back inside. The evening was full. The word for it was full, the particular fullness that belonged to houses containing people who had chosen each other and were not pretending otherwise. Her brother had been discharged from the hospital that afternoon, installed on the living room couch with his cast and his television remote and his general air of someone enjoying the attention more than he would admit. He had made both mothers laugh within 20 minutes, which Tiana registered as the highest possible social achievement available in this house, and which told her everything she needed to know about how the evening was going to go. Her mother had made the food she made for occasions, not the everyday food, the occasion food, the 3-hour food, the kind that appeared in the good dishes without ceremony, because that was how her mother did everything that mattered. Daesung ate 3 helpings, and his compliments were specific rather than general, which her mother recognized as the compliments of someone who actually tasted what they were eating, and she refilled his plate without being asked, which meant he had passed every available test. His mother sat at the table and ate and talked and was, for the first time across 5 episodes of this story, simply a person at a dinner table. No boardroom authority, no institutional leverage, no alliances requiring management. Just a woman sharing a meal with people she had not known a week ago and finding, in the warmth of a kitchen in America, in the easy laughter of a family that knew how to be together, more than she had expected to find. Tiana watched her from across the table. Once, briefly, their eyes met. Something passed between them that did not need a name. The understanding of 2 women who had been on opposite sides of something real and had found, through the thing itself, a version of each other worth knowing. Then her brother said something ridiculous from the couch, and they both looked away and the dinner continued. Daesung at one point caught her eye across the table. Just a look, brief, reading the specific attentiveness that had never changed since the first morning greeting in a corporate office in Gangnam. She looked back at him. In his expression was the quiet, complete certainty of someone who knows where they are and is glad to be there. Later, after the meal, after the dishes, after her mother had directed Daesung's mother firmly toward the guest room in the particular hospitality that accepted no argument, the house settled into its evening quiet. The television was on low in the living room where her brother was drifting toward sleep. The 2 mothers had retired. The kitchen was clean. Tiana was at the living room window looking at the street outside, the streetlights, the neighbor's car, the small, familiar geography of the place that had made her. She heard Daesung come in from the hallway. He stood beside her. They looked at the street together for a moment. "Your mother," he said. "I know," she said. "3 helpings," he said. "She makes tea for people she is evaluating," Tiana said. "Food means she's already decided." "I should have stopped at 2 to maintain dignity," he said. "Too late," she said. "She refilled your plate. That's the final step. You're in." He looked at her, the honest cousin of a smile moving across his face. "My mother," he said. "I know," she said. "She told me things in the backyard." He looked at her. "What did she say?" "Things she needed to say," Tiana said, "and things I needed to hear." A pause. "She said you've always been more alone than you let anyone see." He was quiet for a moment. "She's right," he said. "I know," Tiana said. "I've known since a late-night office and a city through the window, and you telling me you couldn't remember the last time someone talked to you like a normal person." He looked at her, the composure that had never fully dissolved, not even here, not even in this living room, was the thinnest it had ever been. The man underneath it entirely present. Behind them on the couch, her brother shifted in his sleep. The television played softly. Outside, the streetlight held its quiet circle. He reached into his jacket pocket. She saw his hand move, and she turned toward him fully. She had been waiting for this without knowing she was waiting for it, and now that his hand was moving to his pocket, she felt it. The particular held breath of someone on the edge of the most important moment of the story. The velvet box was the same. Dark, small, the specific size and shape that had been in his pocket since a Friday in Gangnam when the phone had rung at the worst possible moment. He had carried it across an ocean. He had carried it through an airport and through a front door and through 3 helpings of dinner and a hospital visit and a backyard conversation between his mother and the woman he loved. It had been in his pocket through all of it, waiting. He looked at her. "I started to say something in an elevator," he said. "You were interrupted," she said. I would like to finish it, he said. She looked at him. The street outside, the quiet house, the particular quality of a moment that had been 11 months and 4 episodes and 41 rejection emails and 2 buses and a smudged lip gloss in the making. He opened the box. The ring was simple, not performing, not announcing itself, just a clean and beautiful thing chosen by someone who understood that the woman it was for did not need anything to announce itself on her behalf. A single stone, warm in color, the kind of thing that would look right on the hand of a woman who fixed her lip gloss in elevator mirrors and corrected errors on page 17 and said, "Call my lawyer," in fluorescent rooms, with nothing in her hand except the thing she had found in a church pew. He looked at her. His expression was the most unguarded thing she had seen across 5 episodes. Not the boardroom composure, not the cold precision of the confrontation with his mother, not even the quiet openness of the wall outside her building in the evening cold. Just him. Completely him. I have known since the 3rd morning, he said. When you said good morning even though you were afraid. I have known since a compliance document with a corrected figure in its version history that you told nobody about. I have known since a wall in the cold and a church you found by turning a corner you hadn't turned before, and a fluorescent room where you said, "Call my lawyer," with nothing in your hand. He held her gaze. I have been carrying this box since a Friday in Seoul, and I would like, if you are willing, to put it where it belongs. Behind them on the couch, her brother was not entirely asleep. She knew this because she knew him, and because the quality of his breathing had changed the moment Dae-sung reached into his pocket. From the hallway above, she became aware, just at the periphery of her attention, the soft sound of 2 sets of footsteps that had come to the top of the stairs and stopped. Her mother. His mother. Both of them there in the hallway, dark, not coming down, just present. She looked at Dae-sung. She thought about the elevator. The first one, the Monday morning elevator with the broken CCTV and the coral lip gloss and the nervous energy and the stranger who stepped in and looked at the panel and stood beside her without a word. She thought about the last elevator she had been in with him, the Friday elevator in Gangnam with the velvet box and the phone and the emergency call and the doors closing on her face. She thought about everything between those 2 elevators, all of it, the full accumulated weight of every morning greeting and every compliance brief and every late-night city and every impossible choice at every table, everything that had been required to get from that Monday morning to this living room. She thought about yes, how it had always been the right answer even when everything around it was complicated. Yes, she said. The word was quiet and complete and carried everything it needed to carry. She said it again, just to be certain, just because it was the kind of word that deserved to be said twice. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. His hands were steady, they were always steady, but in the quality of the stillness she could feel that the steadiness was being chosen rather than arrived at effortlessly, and that told her more about this moment than anything he could have said. Then her brother said from the couch, in the particular tone of someone who had been pretending to be asleep for approximately 4 minutes, "Finally." From the hallway, her mother's laugh. Full, real, the one she kept for things that mattered. And just beneath it, quieter and less practiced at being heard but unmistakably there, another laugh. Dae-sung's mother, in a hallway in America, laughing at the end of a story that had started in an elevator in Seoul. Tiana looked at her hand, the ring, the warm color of the stone in the living room light. Then she looked at Dae-sung, at his face, at the complete quiet smile on it, at the man who had been choosing her since a 3rd morning and had not stopped. She thought about the coral lip gloss, about a mirrored elevator door and a stranger who stepped in, and the nervous energy of a woman who talked when she was nervous and had never managed to cure that particular reflex and had been, in the end, saved by it. Later that evening, after the celebrations had settled into the warm, comfortable noise of people who belonged to each other being together, after her mother had produced dessert that she had apparently been planning regardless of outcome, after Dae-sung's mother had sat beside her mother at the kitchen table and they had found the particular frequency that existed between women who built things for their children and understood each other in it, Tiana slipped away to the bathroom for a moment. She stood at the mirror. She reached into her bag. The coral lip gloss tube, the same one or a successor to the same one, the same color, the same barely there shine. She applied it. She pressed her lips together twice. She looked at her reflection. She looked like herself. She had always looked like herself. Through the compliance floor and the whisper campaigns and the interrogation room and the church and the boardroom and the corridor and the flight and the backyard and all of it, through every version of the past 11 months, she had looked like herself. That was the thing that started everything. That was the thing that had held. She put the gloss away. She looked at her hand in the mirror, the ring on her finger, warm and real. She thought about going back to Seoul, about the strategy floor and the morning commute and the elevator at Daesung Holdings with its polished, brushed steel walls and its broken CCTV that had never recorded the most important 30 seconds of either of their lives. She thought about what Daesung had said on the wall outside her building in the evening cold. The first time he had shown her the man underneath the CEO, the version of himself that had spent a very long time being more alone than he let anyone see. She thought about what she had said in the backyard to his mother, that she knew, that she had always known. She smiled at her reflection, privately, the way she smiled at things that did not need an audience. Then she went back to the living room where the people she loved were making the particular noise of people who had all chosen the same room. She found Daesung in the kitchen doorway, watching the room, her mother and his mother at the table, her brother gesturing with his good arm about something that was apparently very funny, the warm, full sound of it all. She stood beside him. They watched together. "Seoul," he said. "Is still there," she said. "We can go back." "We can go back," he agreed. She looked at her hand, the ring and the kitchen light. Then she looked at him. "The elevator," she said. He looked at her. "What about it?" "When we go back," she said, "I want to take the elevator." Something moved across his face, the full, complete smile, the one that had started as the honest cousin of a smile on a Monday morning and had been completing itself slowly across 11 months and had now, in a kitchen doorway in America, arrived at its finished form. Quiet, real, unhurried. "We can take the elevator," he said. Outside, the night did what nights always did, enormous and indifferent and burning with the ordinary lights of a city that had no idea what was happening in this particular house on this particular street. Somewhere in Seoul, a corporate building stood with its elevator and its polished steel walls and the small camera mounted in the upper left corner that had never worked and had never needed to. The most important 30 seconds of the story had happened in that space without being recorded anywhere except in two people's memories, and they both had them exactly right. And that was enough. It had always been enough. This is where I leave them. Not because the story is over. The real stories never end. They just become life, the particular ongoing life of two people who chose each other and keep choosing in the daily, ordinary way. But because the story I set out to tell, from the elevator to the ring, from the smudged lip gloss to the yes said twice in a living room in America, has arrived where it was always going. She came to Seoul with 41 rejection emails behind her and 2 buses and a pair of heels that pinched. She left with something she had not gone looking for and could not have planned for and would not trade for any of the easier versions of her life that were available along the way. He was the loneliest person in the building he owned. And then a nervous woman fixed her lip gloss in a mirrored elevator and talked to him like a normal human being for 30 seconds, and everything changed. I wrote this story for everyone who believes that the best love is the kind that sees you. Not the performance, not the composure, not the version you put on for the office floor. The real one, the 2 in the morning one, the church pew one, the call my lawyer with nothing in my hand one. And to every person who has been here since part 1, every single viewer who left a comment, who dropped a "Stay Strong, Tiana," who built theories in the comment section, who asked for part 2 and part 3 and part 4 and this, thank you. You carried this story as much as I wrote it. I felt you in every episode, and I am grateful for every one of you. Tell me in the comments, What was the moment that got you completely? The moment you knew this story had you. I read every single comment and I want to know yours. If stories like this one are why you come to Afro-Korean drama, subscribe so you are the first to know what comes next. Because there are more stories to tell, more elevators to step into, more strangers who turn out to be something else entirely. Thank you for watching all the way through, from part 1 to the finale. That means everything.